34-year-old, basically unknown lawyer to come to his defense and take a look at it and represent him. And because you got to remember what we as lawyers do, it's as if they're standing there, but they're talking through us. And to put that kind of faith in me on a world stage, I was honored to do it. And then when I got in it and took a look at it and talked to the witnesses and saw the tape and then saw truly believed that the state could not prove beyond a reasonable doubt the charges and knew it, I think I had an obligation as a member of the bar to take that case. And what the third grade marshal say, you do the best you can with what you got. And it turned out that we were pretty successful to this day. People who weren't sitting there and saw it, who say, look, I saw the tape and all that, didn't see the experts testify that those tapes very well were doctored, that those tapes were very well, the pixels were off, and there were moles missing on him that he actually had. Didn't see that evidence. So to say that, I'm just not being truthful when I say it very well could not have been him, and certainly the government couldn't prove that it was him, they certainly didn't sit there and go through it. And that jury came back with a finding of not guilty, that the state did not prove him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And so for all those reasons, I was very interested in that case.
You mentioned the tape. The public, as well as the jury, has some strong opinion regarding the R. Kelly alleged sex tape, which the prosecution thought it was a slam dunk. Some people thought it was a turning point because of the alleged visual evidence. However, it was opposite of that. Why do you think it was opposite? What was the turning point that made it? You mentioned the graphic nature of moles, the blips on the videotape just a few minutes ago. What was that turning point?
Well, I'll tell you right now, a couple of things. One, there were problems with the tape. But most importantly here is they never brought in the alleged victim in the case. And she went to, I can say this now, she went to the grand jury and testified, that's not me on the tape. And then her mother went to testify, that's not her on the tape, that's not her. Then her father went to the test, that's not her on the tape. And the government never brought her in to say otherwise, or at least show the jury the girl on the tape versus the girl in person. Never did that. Now how do you, think about this now, not just entertainment-wise, but in a court of law, our judicial system is based upon the premise that because the government has all of its resources and power behind it, they have to prove one of their citizens guilty beyond a reasonable doubt before you can take their freedoms away. How can you possibly have a young girl that you're saying is the victim of something as heinous as this and never bring her in for the jury to see? That's reprehensible. If you're truly trying to take freedom away from somebody, if you're really going to have them, and especially someone like R. Kelly, who's a known figure in the entertainment community, who has millions of dollars at stake, think about that. He could have lost millions upon millions of dollars in endorsements, and the government has a...
Good afternoon, everybody. Hope all is well out there. Go ahead and give yourself some hearts. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way in and on your way out. I just wanted to share this piece of audio of one of R. Kelly's previous attorneys, Sam Adams, who spoke briefly about the video or tape of alleged R. Kelly and Rashonda Landfair and his findings of what he believed to have been factual about the situation. Preponderance is what he called it on someone that the government is trying to find guilty in their due process of laws. They're found ways to ignore the laws that was implemented into the United States of America for everybody out here. We're statues, you're statues, they're statues, and everybody to vote on them, for these laws to be passed and placed into law for everybody to follow these government laws. But somehow this prosecution that is going up against Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly is now in the process of trying to take him down by any means necessary, and that is ignoring their own laws, our laws, and everybody's laws out here. They don't care of what laws was implemented in. I hear the situations going on about the double jeopardy out here. Non-lawyer has some very interesting information on how he explains the double jeopardy between the state and the federal case, and how they implemented those two together to make it work in their alleged favor, to what they believe is going to work against Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly, by combining many different allegations against him and putting their twists and turns to it. I really enjoyed this audio by Sam Adams, and the way that he had responded to quite a few things on here. And one was that the parents of Rashonda Landfair came in and also testified up under the oath of the court of law, saying that was not their daughter. And he went on saying that the tape had been doctored and to where you didn't see the moles or anything on Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly. On the other hand, however, there is some more attorneys out there as well that would clearly say that, no, R. Kelly was guilty as well. So this fight about Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly has been one hell of a freaking journey out here for everybody. Mind-boggling of what is true and what is not true. The way I see it, I hear the arguments about there's other tapes out here. And I'm like what Sam Adams said in one part of this audio, and I totally agree with him on it. In 2002 through the 2008 trial, with all of the accusations about Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly, like he said, pretty much all of his endorsements would have probably been dropped. Nobody probably would have wanted to carry him on at all, just having the allegations put on them. I believe that there are some artists out here that kind of went through that, where they wouldn't mess with them no more, even if they had heard about the situation. But after Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly had ended up getting the acquittal in 2000 on the 2002 to the 2008 trial, which went on for about 6 years or so, you had the public come out and start putting the allegations out here about whether if those parents were paid off to go overseas and disappear and all of that. All of these allegations, if it's damn if he do and it's damn if he don't, pretty much in this case, because the way that your government has chosen to try this man's case. He still will probably have the Minnesota going on and Chicago going on as well after the New York case. But we are all out here staying prayed up for Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly, that he can get an acquittal with a fair juror in favor of him, with listening to all of the allegations and all of the witnesses and things that will be coming forth towards him. Now I'm seeing the story with Geronda Pace wants to talk about how she's pregnant and she really doesn't want to be there, and she's pissed and she's stressed. It's causing her all type of this and to this and this and that, and she really wished that it would go away and blah blah blah, but let's continue on with this. And once this ends, you guys, I will see you guys in between time, because I have to get my job done today. So I hope all is doing well today.
Responsibility to prove its case, yet they don't call the young girl in. I'm not here to denigrate real violence. I'm tired of real violence. I'm not here to denigrate sexual assault. I'm tired of seeing people sexually assaulted. These women out here need a voice for them. There's no question about it. But that's not what we were there for. We were there to determine whether or not the government can prove if Robert was the individual who did this to a particular young girl. Now that's what happened in the case. And the the jurors came out and said it afterwards. See, what happened here is they brought in 18 or 19 right out here in Oak Park. Witnesses that came in and said, I know her, and she was beautiful, and she was a lovely.
Then he goes on and says that during the trial, that they brought in 18, maybe 19 people straight out of Oak Park to go up against Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly. That's what he says. I can imagine them trying to do the same thing. Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly was known pretty much all around the freaking world, and the only people that they can possibly find is just people from Chicago, right out of his neighborhood, whom he was well known by or had some entanglement as far as chilling in the studio with, introducing his new music to him, to see what his people that he was always around, what do they think about his music? Is it something that you think that will pop? As far as probably coming in and having little small parties and cigar time and all of that stuff with these people. There's quite a few people that has really turned their backs on Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly, and pretty much all of us kind of figure out that, there's this big agenda and this motive, and it's about money. Maybe there's some things that didn't sit well with a lot of them, that they may feel that Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly owes them for this and should have bought them a car for that, or didn't get a home for this, and etc. But that's how I see it. I think that they're going to try to come back and use a whole bunch of more people from the neighborhood area that he pretty much spent a lot of his time in, and people that he spent a lot of his time with. Ludicrous, you guys.
Young girl. And for someone to do these things to her is terrible. And I started cross-examining each and every one of them. Not hard, but very, very, very softly. Tell me what you knew about her. And they went through and told her this is a lovely girl, wonderful girl, great girl. And then you see the tape. And that's a girl doing, if you watch it, that's the young girl doing some very adult, nasty thing that couldn't be the same. And then for the government not to come in and bring her in here and at least show them to her. At the end of the case, when I stood up in my closing argument, I stood right in the well of the jury room, of the audience, and I asked the jury, they're asking you to convict him of doing this to this individual. Now look in this audience. Is she here? Is she here? And if you don't know, because they didn't bother bringing her in, how can you convict a man of something as heinous as this? And the jury understood that. There's a responsibility, government, and that's one of the problems with our people, and I see it day in and day out. They don't take that seriously. That government has a responsibility to us. They work for us, man. We don't live for them. Government's supposed to be there to protect us. When you talk about a congressional seat, that's our seat. That ain't Ted Cruz's seat. When you talk about a state's attorney, that ain't a state's attorney's seat. That's our seat. And when you talk about prosecuting a man for crimes that he's been charged with, man, those prosecutors are our prosecutors. And they better darn well make sure that they can prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt, because it's our citizenship that we're talking about. And that's why I think R. Kelly's a very important case. Not because of the salaciousness and the dirtiness. That's what people want to talk about. But when you really start understanding the fundamental nature of what we are talking about when it comes to our legal system, this is too important to be cavalier. This is too important to take in a facetious manner. And that, so when people always ask me what then I start preaching, and it's, man, I don't hear all that, man, I don't hear all that. So if you don't want to hear all that, I understand that. But that's the fundamental truth of who and what we have to understand where we are and we should be about.
So, with that being said, you guys go on and enjoy your day, and I will talk and speak and see you guys soon. Bye-bye.